It's an off day here in Oxnard, California, as we welcome you into Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford. This time not on site at the River Ridge Sports Complex. Instead, we are out here at the Oxnard Harbor alongside Hailey Sutton. I'm Kyle Youmans, taking in the scenery of the harbor behind us, but also wrapping up week number 1 here for Dallas Cowboys Training Camp, and it's been quite the week so far.
Oh my gosh, it's so spectacular just to kind of get through that first week. I know everybody was itching to get football back, and we've seen a lot of really great things. We've seen some position competitions, we've seen some position changes, some injuries already, so it's already been a jam-packed week.
And speaking of some changes, of course, Mike McCarthy in his first week as play caller, also as head coach for the Cowboys, and first-time play calling since 2018. He says it's a bit refreshing, and they're trying to really reestablish the deep ball a little bit. And we've seen that through the practices, especially on Saturday when really the offense let it fly a little bit.
Yeah, it was so much fun just getting to see those guys back in their element. You saw a couple of completed touchdowns to CeeDee Lamb and to Brandon Cooks that we'll get to in just a little bit. But Mike McCarthy said it best in his press conference yesterday that getting back to calling the plays has been fun for him. He's been excited to get back into that role and really help this offense take the top off. And you saw that in that mock practice, or that mock game, if you will, yesterday. A lot of big explosive plays.
Yeah, for the most part, I mean, allowing CeeDee Lamb and Brandon Cooks to take the top off of the defense is something that will continue to grow this offense and move it forward. Do you think both of them have just scratched the surface, or do you feel like there's more to come with both of those receivers?
I think it's preseason, so we got to pump the brakes a little bit of our expectations just because we really haven't seen what all they're going to bring to the table. We know what they've done in the past, but it's exciting to think about what could be in the future for those guys, especially with the little glimpses that we've already seen. I will say that the speed is scary. The speed is something that I don't think this Cowboys wide receiver core has had in quite some time, so that's definitely something to pay attention to.
Also paying attention to Youmans Thomas and what he's done here this week, the second-year player out of Georgia Tech. He was undrafted a year ago. Both Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn have really talked highly of what Youmans Thomas has brought to the table, and of course with injuries to both Israel Mukuamu and starter Donovan Wilson, he's had plenty of opportunity and taken advantage.
Yeah, I think the first couple of days it was all eyes on Marquise Bell, and he kind of got that first nod, but don't get it twisted. Youmans Thomas has got in there yesterday. He had a really great practice, had a couple PBUs and some great tackles as well, so just excited to see what that position group will look like. And some of those young guys, as I've mentioned all week, this is going to be a team that relies on their young guys, and this is the perfect opportunity to figure it out.
Speaking of second-year players, when we come back, Nick Harris joins the show. He'll give you an inside look of Turpin as he makes his return to the practice field after missing for a very, very good reason. We'll be back with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp right after this.
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, is brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Go Cowboys!
This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
This year, coming from last year from the USFL, I get to do OTAs and the minicamp. I feel like this year, I got to do those things. I feel like I'm ahead where I need to be at. We're coming from the office and, come in and learn the plays. I just feel like I'm in a wonderful spot right now, just coming in, be able to do them two things during the offseason.
Welcome back into Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford, as we welcome in Nick Harris from DallasCowboys.com to the show. And Nick, it's been an eventful first week of training camp for the Cowboys, but you also just heard from Turpin, presented by Sleep Number, and he's excited to be back out on the practice field for his second trip to Oxnard, and he returns after a bit of an absence for a good reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Turpin missed the first few days of camp, welcoming in his second baby daughter. So we want to give a shout out to the Turpin family welcoming in another member. But he came back in on Saturday and he was lights out. He did not miss one beat. He said during the week he was studying his playbook the whole time and in preparation for when he got the moment to return. And he came back on Saturday and he was lights out. Had many plays downfield where he was able to create separation. Got a lot of run with the first team and even showed a little shiftiness that got some oohs and ahs from the crowd.
We love a girl dad. I want to start out by saying
Absolutely.
that we absolutely love a girl dad. But it kind of makes that wide receiver 4 spot a little bit more complicated, especially when we've been talking about the battle between Jalen Tolbert and Simi Fehoko. How does this shake things up in that area?
Yes, if Turpin can push that room, it's going to make it incredibly interesting. Jalen Tolbert through this first week has been lights out. You know, we've talked a lot about how Jalen Tolbert has come into training camp with a different mindset than he came into last year during his rookie season. He has a year under his belt. You can feel it when you talk to him and you can see him on the field. On Saturday, he had a touchdown reception with the second team that definitely proved that he should be worthy of being in those first team reps as well, and he's gotten a few of those. But Simi Fehoko is also getting some of those reps as well. If all three of those guys can push each other and create competition within each other, that's just only going to make the wide receiver room better.
And of course, we're only 3 practices in and no pads just yet. We will have 9 padded practices starting on Monday. And with that being said, I mean, is there any position group, I should say, that you should keep your eye on going into this week to maybe try and shine a little bit now that the pads and the physicality is back?
Absolutely. One very specific position, and it's nose tackle. The Cowboys
Shocker.
spent their first-round pick on Mozzie Smith. They wanted that physicality in the middle of that defensive line, and I want to see what he can do whenever those pads go on Monday. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You can tell Mozzie's ready to put those pads on and get to work when it comes to his viciousness.
Yeah, you can definitely tell Mozzie is like chomping at the bit to get in there and get active, so I'm definitely excited to see him too.
Should be a lot of fun to see the first-round pick back after it. It's been a lot of fun catching up with Nick Harris here, and we've got the Seals in the background. We saw one just a couple moments ago, believe it or not. We'll try and put it on camera. We'll have them cut that in after we finish things up here on Inside Cowboys Training Camp. But when we come back, we will certainly take a look at the positions Hailey is looking at when the pads come on, and who else could maybe shine in Week 2 here from Oxnard.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Go Cowboys!
Yeah, it's definitely different. But I mean, you got to expect that. There's change every year, and I think Coach Dub has done a really good job of just making sure everybody in the room is ready for whenever their number gets called. And I think this room is really, really good, top to bottom. Anybody can play, and I think a lot of guys in this room are going to make plays and are making plays right now.
Welcome back into Inside Cowboys Training Camp, driven by Ford from the Oxnard Harbor on an off day for the Cowboys. But just because it's an off day for them doesn't mean it's an off day for us. Back here with Hailey Sutton, I'm Kyle Youmans, and you just heard from Jake Ferguson. I know you've got an eye on the tight ends going into the week of padded practices, trying to use that physicality and get back to blocking too.
Yeah, I love this tight end group, and I was a little bit nervous when Dalton Schultz went to the Texans just because I figured you lose not only Dak Prescott's security blanket, but you also lose the leader in that room. But after we had a chance to talk to Jake Ferguson today, I loved what he had to say. Quite frankly, I asked him, are you the leader in this room? And he said, you know what? I am a leader in some aspects, and Peyton's a leader in other aspects, and Seth's a leader as well. So you can kind of see them sharing that responsibility, but that position in general is really changing. These guys were going through blocking drills earlier. They were going through tackling a little bit. They were going through their footwork progression. So it's really becoming a dynamic group, and I think that entire group really stands out among one another.
Now I'm going to go with the defensive side of the football, because as much as I love the tight end group and how much youth is there, I want to see some of the youth step up at the cornerback position. Kelvin Joseph, we've already seen Nashawn Wright. You saw Israel Mukwamu go down, and that's a huge loss for the Cowboys overall. But for the most part, I want to see Eric Scott Jr., Deron Bland continue to grow, continue to improve. And if they're able to do that cornerback-wise, I think this is a defense that has really no holes to go with.
Yeah, and it was so fun, too, getting to hear from Charles Haley yesterday as he was really rallying up the crowd. And he said, quite frankly, Jerry Jones has done a fantastic job of getting this team together and getting them ready to compete for Super Bowl championships. And I can't imagine a better guy to pump up this team than Charles Haley, so you're really starting to see it come together.
1 week down, we've got a couple more to go here from Oxnard. We'll be back at the River Ridge Sports Complex tomorrow with more Inside Cowboys Training Camp. For Hailey Sutton and our entire Dallas Cowboys crew, I'm Kyle Youmans saying so long. We got some fans on the kayaks in the back. How about that?
Inside Cowboys Training Camp, presented by Ford, was brought to you by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. And by your Texas Ford dealers. Ford is the best in Texas.
Go Cowboys!